You did. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited for another episode of Live at 5. It's our You Are Enough conversation series. And listen, I've never had a guest that I have known as long as our guest today. I can't even believe it, y'all. It has been 30 years ago. Yes, 30, this past August that we met in the freshman dorm of Pfeiffer Hall at Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia. I was moving from Jackson, Tennessee, and our guest today was moving from Dallas, Texas, Oak Cliff to be specific. And
OC.
and it was just one of those God moments, and it's a God story because God will put people in your life that aligns with where you're going without you knowing where you are headed. Did you
Ooh,
hear me? God will put people in your life that align with where you're going, even when you don't know where you are headed. So I want to officially say welcome to Robin May, licensed mental health therapist, author, blogger, speaker, mother, daughter, wife, pastor, preacher. Can I add that to the list? And executive coach. Welcome to the party, Big Rob.
I'm so excited to be here, honey. You know, if you call me and say, Robin, can we do jumping jacks at 5:30? I'm gonna say absolutely, no question. We're gonna do jumping jacks. So I'm super excited to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. So listen, y'all. Y'all might hear us calling each other our nicknames because we've known each other so long. So when I say Big Rob, she knows I'm seriously about to ask. So first up, and
Yes.
you will hear her call me T, and that's just what it is. We are family like that.
Yes.
So before we dive in, can you tell everybody a little bit about your journey to being a mental health therapist? Because, I have two college daughters right now. And freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, people are asking them what exactly they want to do with their whole lives. And there's no way any of us knew it then or even know it now because you did not start off your journey in the mental health field. So can you tell us a little bit about that journey and your family right now?
So you know what's interesting? First of all, I'm so excited to be here. Okay, let me say that again. I'm super excited. So that is so interesting because can everybody listen when I tell you that my undergraduate degree from the Clark Atlanta University, my undergraduate degree is in mathematics. I need everybody to understand that my degree is in mathematics. However, T, you said very casually that I got two college students, which I just can't even accept. I still can't accept it. But I'm over here with two high school students and an elementary student. But what's so funny, when any of them, all three of our daughters, when they need help with their math, baby, they're not calling me. They're not calling me. They're not asking me. They asking their dad. So I have this because I tell them by the time I graduated from college, we were not using numbers anymore. So I can't do that little baby math y'all over there doing. So, so my undergraduate degree is in mathematics. But when you talk about this conversation about being enough or not feeling enough, that's really what pushed me into discovering my purpose. I graduated from Clark Atlanta University. A lot transpired, and I end up married. But not only do I end up married to my college sweetheart, I am working eventually, not right away, but eventually in full time ministry at a mega ministry that had over 30,000 members. I started out working in the youth department. I promise y'all, I'm going to get there. Flow with me. This is important. I started out working in the youth department, college ministry, and then I ended up being promoted to being one of the assistants for the senior pastor of this mega church. But I remember whenever I would be out and about and people would ask me what I do for a living, I always wanted to add, I'm an executive assistant because I didn't want to just say secretary because for some reason I felt very insecure about my title and what I was doing. Now, mind you, this is a mega ministry. I mean, we're dealing with presidents of the United States of America. We're dealing with the top executives around the world. All the celebrities are calling my number to help navigate what's going on with this ministry. And so this wasn't a small role, but I felt very intimidated and insecure about my title. Where does my husband come into play? So now I'm married, and my husband is doing all of these big things. All of his friends who he knew since high school were doing all of these big things. So we're out and about, and everybody's talking about what they're doing for a living. And I'm saying, I'm an executive assistant. No, but it's a real big church. I'm having to add that into the conversation. And I just got tired of feeling a sense of, I keep using the word insecurity, but I was tired of feeling that. And I was tired of feeling unfulfilled. And so I made finding my purpose my full time job.
Wow.
I began to really lean into what were you created to do? It took some time, but I began to discover right there at the church where I was working, there was a purple couch in the office. And see, my coworkers would come, and these are people that I don't even want to say coworkers, they were like family to me. They would come in and they would sit on that couch, and I would be all in their business, honey. I'm asking them all kind of questions. We are talking. The pastor and my direct supervisor would walk by and say, Robin, you are not the church therapist. I need you to go write that letter I asked you to write. You've been talking for the last hour. They said that enough that it began to dawn on me that I was passionate about helping people figure out what was going in their life and to get ahas in their life. So I went back to school to get my master's in counseling.
Okay, I love this so much because you are exactly what they were saying that you're not right now. Do you see this full circle? Do you see this full circle? Okay, so I want to encourage someone who feels like at whatever age, stage, marriage, marriage point, motherhood point you're at, that it's too late to start over. Because you were already well into your married years when you decided, oh, more school for me. Can you
Girl,
tell
not only
somebody
that, I
exactly
was
who you were?
considered a non-traditional student. That's because I was older and I was having a child. So I was in there with 20-year-olds.
And you were like how old at that time?
So I had to be 34, 34, 35. And so it wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And I really want to get up and run around this office real quick when you said you were exactly what they said you were not. And here's the thing. They were not trying to bring me down. They were not trying to speak ill of me. These are the pastor, may he rest in heaven, and my direct supervisor. She's still like a big sister to me. They were not meaning any ill will. They were just saying, this is not what you were hired for, ma'am. And you in here doing something you weren't hired for. But ta-da,
I
clearly.
love it so much. All right, someone you've been feeling a prompting and a prick inside your heart to go back to school to become new at something, and you've maybe been experienced in another role. But this is your confirmation. This is your moment. You are enough to do exactly what you're called, created to do. And just because you're created to do it doesn't mean that you don't need training for it. All right. And so I too was in a program and having kids because when I did my doctoral program, it was supposed to be a 3 year program that turned into a 5.5 year program for me because I had both Princess and Paris during that time.
Yes,
So
yes.
God could
I
be doing
remember,
multiple
boo.
things in your life at the same time. And
Yes.
the tribe you don't know you need will rise up. The village that you need will show themselves. And so you may not know all of the players and all of the people that will help you at the moment of entry into a program, but God will raise them up. I specifically remember being pregnant with Paris and it being time to do comprehensive exams when you're at that point where you finish your coursework and are about to go into the dissertation process. And one of the ministers at our church that had her doctorate already. She had to be my what's the person that oversees the tests? The
Proctor, the
Yes,
proctor.
she had to be my proctor while I was like, come here, Paris. Paris.
Ooh, I remember Paris when Paris broke my arm. Come on,
Like
Paris.
this with Paris. And she had and now Paris is my freshman at Xavier University. That's our cameo for the day, y'all, in New Orleans. But I was like this, trying to finish that doctorate, and some God raised somebody up to be my proctor to come to me while I was waddling, so I could still
But I
complete
mean,
the process.
but T, you are speaking such a powerful principle right there. And I think sometimes those who are like me, those who overthink, those who want to control all the details. Am I talking to anybody? Is anybody saying, Amen, Robin? That's me. You're an overthinker. You want to control all the details and you have a hard time relinquishing and walking by faith. I know, we're supposed to walk by faith, but for people like me, that's difficult. And so, Tara, you said the people that are called to support you, the village that you need, the support system, it will come. We have to walk by faith and understand you may not know it right now, but you don't need to know it right now. You will know it when you need to know it. One of the things I have to remind myself is that I'm on a need to know basis. God has me on a need to know basis. He will let me know when I need to know. So don't allow not knowing to stop you from getting going.
That's powerful. And I'm stepping on my own toes right now because, I'm telling some past testimonies. But, I have a husband who has crazy faith and is a serial entrepreneur. And so I'm often biting my nails like, now we're about to do what? We're about to do what do? And he's like, we'll have it when we need it. And just keeps going. And I'm just like, okay, both of us can't be crazy, right? Somebody has to be
Yes.
a warrior, right?
So I choose, I'll be there.
So I too struggle with walking by faith in certain situations, but each of us has opportunities to look back and realize that the exact person we needed, the team we needed, uh, ex-
Absolutely.
God raises them up, even if you didn't know them, in the starting blocks. Okay, so
Absolutely.
I want to talk about what exactly your company is called right now. I know you have a lot of businesses. Not only are you a mother of three, and share with us the exact ages of the girls right now, and but you also are an author who owns her own businesses. And I want to talk
Yes.
about, some realizations you had with growing your business, even on the therapy side. So tell us about your
Yes.
business structures.
Okay, so I do have 3 daughters, and they are 9, 14, and 16. Can we just talk about the fact that yesterday and today we went shopping for the first time with both of me and both of my school students are going to homecoming. So we were out shopping for all of that. And so it is such an interesting time. So I have my 3 daughters. My husband and I do pastor a church. We just celebrated 6 years in September. So we are still new to this. But then I also have a coaching practice and I have a counseling practice. Now, I just want people to understand that coaching and counseling are 2 different skill sets and they're 2 different career paths. I like to call them cousins, right? They are related, but they are not the same thing. So my coaching practice is called Live Life LLC, and we'll get into what life stands for because life is an acronym. But my counseling practice is called Virtue Speaks. Now, T, you know this. I'm about to drop this reminder to you because you may not realize this. Do you remember when I was writing a book many years ago? Do you remember this? So I
Yeah.
was writing a book many back when I was still working in full-time ministry at this particular church. I had this idea. Gosh, I cannot believe this. I had this idea to write a book about first ladies. Now this is just, I wasn't even a first lady. This keeps bringing full circle. I wasn't even a first lady, but I wanted to give voice to first ladies, and so I had this idea of this book called Virtue Speaks. And the idea was giving space for powerful women to allow their voice to be heard. So the book was called Virtue Speaks. Some things occurred that discouraged me from completing that book. We might come to that later. But many, many, many years later, when I was getting ready to start my own private practice, I was praying about what the name is, and I landed on Virtue Speaks because I wanted to give people the power to allow their virtue to come forth. This is what's so interesting. I have been a therapist now for almost or well over 15 years, a little bit over 15 years. But for most of the years of my counseling practice, I've been independent. I've pretty much worked for myself, but under the umbrella of other um, group practices. Those who are in the field, they kind of understand it, that I was under the umbrella of other group practices, but was very independent. Well, it was time for me to go out on my own. Pandemic hit, and it was time for me to go out on my own. And I just was so nervous because this gets a little bit complicated. But the bottom line is, I was nervous because I wanted to be able to take all of these insurance companies so that I could see the people that really needed the support. Y'all, I kept putting off starting my practice because it was so difficult to get on these panels. I just kept putting it off, kept putting it off. I was like, I'll just wait. I'll just wait. Finally, we started doing some research. My husband and I, we started doing some research about how to get on some of these panels.
And by
Now,
panel,
somebody
that
who's
means you're able to take insurance for what
insurance,
you
right?
do. Mhm.
And it's all you have to get on all the different panels. Well, there was, and I'm not going to say what panel this was, but there was one insurance panel that most of my clients were under this umbrella. Now, remember, I have always been under a group practice. What I didn't realize was many years before, almost 5, almost 6 years before I started my practice, we had made some calls and filled out some paperwork for me to get on a panel. In this particular insurance panel, where most of my clients were on, I never got confirmation that I was on the panel. So for 5, 6, maybe 7 years, I can't remember, I had been putting off starting my private practice because I wanted to be on this particular panel. I had been on the panel for almost 7 years and did not know it. Did not know it. Now, I'm going to blame it on me. Maybe I missed an email. Maybe I didn't look at a letter that came in the mail. Whatever reason, I had been on this panel all this time, this particular insurance panel, and I had been putting off starting my practice when all along I had what I needed. I just didn't know it.
You are already enough. You are
I
already
literally
enough.
was already enough. And I kept putting it off because I didn't realize what I already had.
Woo! Listen, this is a testimony. And somebody, you are watching us, you are listening to us wherever you are in your life, consuming this content. And you need to know, I'm going to quote my husband. He often says, you're already what you're not yet. You are already what you're not yet. You don't even know what you already have. And the thing that you're delaying, the thing that you're thinking, I need more training, I need more certification, I need more hours. Who's going to listen to me? Who's going to trust my word on this? There's somebody who's discouraging yourself, discounting yourself. And the thing that you think discredits you is actually the thing that stamps you enough to do what you're called and created to do. I love that story so much.
It's mind blowing. Even telling it now, T, it's just showing me even in some other areas, even now with that testimony, that's my testimony. With that testimony, it just reminds me, girl, you already got it. What you're looking for, you already got it. What you want to search for, you already got it. You're looking and looking, but you already got it. And it's interesting because, like I said, counseling and coaching are cousins. But in my coaching practice, Tara, that's a lot of what happens when I'm coaching women. And my coaching practice is focused on women gaining clarity about what it means to really live a life of abundance, right? Really living a life that they were created to live. And I walk them through these 7 steps to live the life that they want to live. But Tara, what's interesting to me is much of the time I'm having to help these dope women, because most of the women are already dope, they're already winning, they're already the bomb, but it's a certain area where they are stuck. I'm having to help them understand, no, you do not have to go get another degree right now. No, you not to start. You can now you may want to go ahead and strengthen your skills, but you don't need that to start. Most of the women I'm dealing with, they already have what they need. They already have what they are looking for. There are some people that are ready to sit with them to learn, and they are buying into the imposter syndrome so much that they refuse to even start because they are convincing themselves that there's something else they have to go get.
Woo, I love it. So listen, if you're watching, I want you right now, type in the chat, enough already. You're enough already. I love this. And I'm so grateful for you sharing that detailed testimony because so many of us are preloaded, already endowed with what we need to do what we're called to do now. And a lot of times
Absolutely.
we can use preparation as a reason to pause, and our
Mhm.
preparation can become procrastination, right? There are some things we
Absolutely.
have to do. There are some things we have to prepare in a field, but then there are certain moments where it's like, all right, that's enough. I in my book I share about this academic journey I was on, and many of you know my getting my doctorate is just a part of a bigger testimony of me not being able to participate in my high school graduation because I failed my honors English class 12th grade year. And so it was more about this full circle moment of I didn't get this, but God allowed me to get this and this and this. So I complete that degree. And a few years after, they renamed the degree, which sounds more prestigious in certain circles. And they're like, come back. You're already in the program. All you have to do is take 3 more classes and do this many more hours of this to get this renamed degree and pay this little extra fee. What little, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And so it sounded so enticing and like, oh, I'm just 3 classes away from being able to say I got this other credential.
Yes.
And I remember being unsettled about it, as doable as it was, as reachable as it was, where it was like, it's time to end the preparation and start the performance, right? You
Absolutely.
prepared, now perform that which you are prepared to.
Yes. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
so someone might be having some moments of using preparation as a crutch, but we are here to encourage you that some things are on the job training. There are some roles you take the role, and then God gives you opportunities to sharpen your skills
Yes.
or prepare more while you are already operating in that yes. Okay, now
Well, let me
Rob.
say this, Tara, because one of the things that I often tell women to help them shift, there are people who want to grow and learn what you already know. And the way you can sometimes wrap your mind around it, let's imagine in this particular area, whatever your thing is, whatever your passion is, I want you just to consider you have your high school diploma in that situation, like in that skill or in that calling. You have your high school diploma. And you're thinking, no, and I'm talking about as far as your experience. You're like, okay, I have high school. There are some people who are still in elementary school who want to learn what you've learned through high school. So those people in elementary school need to know they can't go to the college level yet. They need to know high school. And while you're teaching them high school, you can be over here learning college. So in other words, that there's always someone who can learn what you know right now. And so instead of putting it off, start planting seeds into other people's lives, teaching them, sharing with them the testimonies that you have now, while you are still being encouraged and blessed by those who are a little bit down the road from you. We all have a part that we can play.
I love that. And I feel like as you pour, it encourages you that I have grown in a way that can pour and I'm still getting poured into. I love that.
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to talk about one word. And the one word I want to talk about is reluctance. Reluctance, right? So we are close enough in our relationship when we can call each other as sisters when we're having moments of reluctance, right?
Yes.
Something that you know you're supposed to do, or you're feeling a tug to do it. And like I say, something's wrong with our want to, right? We talk about
Yes.
want to a lot
Yes.
and pushing past that reluctance. So, um, you may have had it in the ministerial side of things. Um, we had mentioned that your husband's also had a very successful career in politics. And that's not a job that is an individual job that doesn't affect the entire family. It's a family decision, right? And so, in all of these moments of opportunity that could be seen as obstacles, how do you deal with the reluctance?
Well, what's interesting is that you know this very well, but those who are watching us would not know that my husband credits T for being the reason I finally got on board with him deciding to pastor a church. So let's paint the picture because, again, like you said, my husband was the youngest commissioner ever elected in our area, DeKalb County, here in Atlanta, Georgia, right? So, DeKalb County is a very, very big county, right? And I'm talking about a county that has a billion with a B, $1 billion budget. I share that just to give you an idea of the capacity. He was the youngest commissioner ever elected in our county. Um, then he gets tapped to be the CEO of our county. In our world, that's like the mayor. Even that, I could go into a whole story about how you pushed me in that, but we're not going to focus on that. But he does this, so he's been in politics for 10 years. Well, then God starts stirring in him that it's time for him to pastor. And it felt like somebody had punched me in the gut. I was so devastated. That's not a good word to say, but I'm just being real, y'all. I was devastated. Now, mind you, let's keep it into perspective. I have been behind the scenes of some of the most known ministries. I've been in the trenches of church world my entire life. I just shared that I was one of the assistants for a mega church. And so I understand and understood the weight of this role. That's number one. Number two, remember, he's been in politics for 10 years. Our life has been for everybody's consumption, it felt like to me, our entire marriage. Because while he was doing all these great things, I wasn't just sitting at home. I was on a radio station that reached 1 million people every Friday. And I want y'all to hear my heart. I'm not saying any of that to be braggadocious. I'm trying to paint the picture that when he came and told me, I want a pastor, he might as well had said, I want you to carry 200 pounds for the rest of your life. Like it just felt like, oh my gosh. So I was very reluctant. Now, I want to say this just like the word fear, I want y'all to hear this. I'm going to put on my counseling hat and y'all don't even have to pay a copay. When somebody tells me that they are afraid, I always tell them, so now tell me what you really are. Because fear is just the front facing emotion. What's behind the fear? Or let's go a layer deeper. then a layer deeper and a layer deeper. So I want to encourage you now after this conversation. I don't want you to stop at I am afraid. I want you to be able to identify what you are afraid of. Go a layer deeper. And a lot of times you need to be in a safe space to be able to do that because that's a vulnerable experience. Well, it's the same with reluctance. I feel reluctant, but I want you to go a layer deeper. Why are you reluctant? And for me, my reluctancy is that I connected pastoring with loss.
Mm.
I connected us pastoring with loss. What did I feel like we were going to lose our life? Felt like I was going to lose the intimacy of my husband. What I mean, we really partner well together, right? We take care of our life responsibilities together. And I felt like he gonna be too busy dealing with the church folk. He not gonna be able to take Riley to gymnastics practice. I thought it was going to be lost. I thought I was losing my my privacy. I just connected it to loss. But I also knew the guy that called him. So, how do you manage what's called cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance is two opposing thoughts. Cognitive dissonance is two opposing thoughts. How do you manage cognitive dissonance? I feel and know this, or I'm thinking this, but I'm also thinking this. Let me remind you, you can have two, three, four thoughts at the same time, and some of those thoughts can always be true. And so you're feeling this push. So I know you're called. And I know because I knew he was called when we were 18, when he was 17 and I was 18 on the campus of Clark Atlanta University. I told him back then, you called to preach. I knew it. His dad was a pastor. I knew he was. But I don't know. I thought we were gonna start this when we were 60, child. I didn't think this was gonna happen. I don't know what I was thinking. And you've gone through the political route. We owned a movie theater. We we were the we were the youngest movie theater owners, independent movie theater owners in the country. We didn't own the movie theater, and this is the other thing. I'm gonna get to reluctance, but watch this. So not only did I associate it with loss, I also we had this movie theater, and we had to close the doors. We did politics, and it was all this weight with politics. So for me, ministry was just another weight. So I'm dealing with this cognitive dissonance. That's why, how do you deal with reluctance? Number one, you have to get to the root of what do you believe God has said. And I know that may sound a little woo woo. The truth is, you have to figure out what am I hearing? What is God saying in this? So I knew he was called, but here's the other thing you have to have the right people in your ear. You have to have the right people in your ear. So let me tell you why. How does T come into this? At that time, at the time that this man is telling me he wants to pastor a church, I was hosting weekly Bible studies every Sunday at my house with girls ages 5 to 10. Every Sunday, 7 to 12 girls came to my house for Bible study. I already told you that I have a coaching practice called Live Life LLC. Well, I was doing probably yearly luncheons for women where I was speaking life into women and empowering women. I also have a whole network for married couples called IBelieveInMarriage.com. Tara said to me when I would call her crying, she said, wait, 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 wait. I'll never forget this. She said, you have a children's ministry. You have a women's ministry. You have a marriage ministry. But you telling this man he can't start a church? And y'all got to know Dr. T. She does not want to put pressure on anybody. She wants everybody to have the ability to choose what they want to choose. Like, she's like, I don't want to. That girl said to me, you have a children's ministry, a women's ministry, and a marriage ministry. But you were telling him he can't start a church. And see, when you said that, it was eye opening for me.
I'm glad that I was used in that way. And you have that kind of voice in my life as well to get me together. And that's
So
all
what?
what I was trying
Wait,
to do.
oh,
I wasn't even trying to
this
do
past
that.
Sunday was pastoral anniversary, not anniversary. What's it called when you honor pastors? Oh, that's a shame. I should know. Pastors Celebration Month, whatever it was. That was this past
Yeah.
Sunday. Not for all pastors. They need to be sending you a gift, T. They need to be sending you a gift because you got me all the way together. And so again, you got to be able to, because I had that cognitive dissonance already going on because I knew he was called. But then you got to make sure you have the right people in your ear who are going to tell you the truth.
And then they're gonna give you therapy. You'll get a therapist therapy. The therapist needs a therapist.
The therapist needs a- Can we talk about you? Can we talk about what you told me?
I got another cameo today, y'all. This is a special episode. Charles Jenkins is in the building.
Charles
Big
Jenkins, can we
Rob,
tell the
Dr.
people
Big
what you said
Rob.
to me? Let me tell you another, he got me together too. Do you remember when you told me your common mind ain't caught up with your uncommon life?
Mm, 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 mm.
He got me all the way together. I was mad because my husband was meeting with the president at the White House and he wasn't getting my children off the bus. And you said,
Not the president of the PTA, not to diminish that role, but we're talking about the president of the United States of America, the sitting president. And you're like, he's about to be gone another day. The president wants him to stay.
I said, he got to stay for a meeting. And I'm saying this in front of you, Charles. I remember you, and I said, who gonna get them off the bus? And you said very calmly, your common mind ain't caught up with your uncommon life.
But it doesn't say anything less about you. It says everything about the practical humanity of any one of us because a lot of times our season changes, but our sensibilities don't. And so we're still in a state of being who we were, even though we're in a season where we're doing something else. And sometimes it takes a moment for our minds to catch up to our brand new location. And if it was easy, one of the most profound stories that speaks to this, Bishop T.D. Jakes tells the story, and this can apply to everybody that's listening. He tells a story of how he came from West Virginia and he had moved to Dallas. I'm speaking of Bishop T.D. Jakes. And, when he was in West Virginia, it was a small church and he preached and he said all kinds of things. He got to Dallas and he said the same things he said in West Virginia. And he ended up on the front page of the Dallas Morning News. And he called his pastor and he said, I don't know why I'm on the front page of the news. I don't know why I'm catching all of this conversation. He says, I'm saying the same stuff I was saying in West Virginia. His pastor said to him, you are. The difference is you're saying it in a different season from a different platform.
Mm.
And what you have not thought about is now there are people who are listening that were never listening before because you're in a different season on a different platform. And so I think for so many of us, and here's the other thing that he said, and I'll close it. He said, sometimes you can be in a new season and not know you're in a new season because you're used to being in the season that you were in. So it's all of us. It's not just you.
But
That-
in all of that, and my husband has a book called Seasons, y'all, where he deals with these season transitions, and it's amazing. But in all of it, you are enough because God knew what season shift was going to happen in your life. And so you are enough for what was, and you're also enough for what's coming and what's now, for the now and the next, right? So even when you are still recalibrating the new season,
Yes.
you are enough. You already got in you what
You already
you
got
need
it.
to face, what you have to face with what comes with the new season.
But here's what's powerful about that, and I'm leaving. You are enough for every season because while the season changes externally, the enoughness can stay the same internally. And so
Wait,
we,
before you go, Charles, I know you got to go, but listen, one of the things you have preached that has talking about seasons that I've tried to repreach, but I don't think I'm getting it quite right. You talk about you preach a sermon that talks about there is no such thing as being out of season, that every season is a season. Can you explain that a little bit?
well, on two fronts. One is all of us that are alive, we're in a season. It's either we're in the fall season, we just left summer, we're headed to the winter. After that, it will be spring. So if you're alive, are you telling me one of the seasons is not yours?
Mm,
If you're in the fall, it's your season. If you're in I mean, you're here. And the erroneous misnomer is that it's only your season when things are going well.
wow.
And there's so many places in scripture that teach us and show us in real life that, matter of fact, Psalm 1:3 says, "You will be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, bringing forth fruit in each season." One Bible translation says its season. The word its there is each, right? So, whatever season you're in, as long as you're connected to God, as long as you're connected to the word, as long as you're connected to the right people, as long as you have the right mindset, listen, it could be raining and the sun can be shining all at the same time. God's blessings are not limited to good days.
Ooh,
Woo!
Yeah. The
ooh,
blessings can flow even in difficult days. And to my wife's point about being enough from
mm,
season to season, David was a successful shepherd. That was a season. He was successful against Goliath. That was a season. He was successful as king. That was a season. He was successful in the face of his enemies. A matter of fact, when he writes, "I will bless the Lord at all times," Saul is trying to kill him. But here it is, you can have a successful spirit even when you are in a season of unsuccessful moments around you.
mm, mhm.
Because we limit success to the outside. You ever went to visit somebody who was sick, but they encouraged you?
Yes.
That's success too. You are enough. I love you both.
Enough. Love you, brother.
I
Love
emphasize
you,
this too
brother.
in my story. I told
Thank
people
you. Thank you. That's Charles Jenkins, my husband of 25 years. And Robin was there the day we met,
Sure was.
the day we
your
got married.
your husband, your husband had to tell her that I had surprised her to try to come see her, and she was Miss Black and Gold.
And what
And
he say? That dude from Chicago.
that dude from Chicago pulled up even when she had a boyfriend.
Okay, goodbye.
Woo! So
That's
you
another
know how
episode.
you know how he does. You know how he does.
I won.
The best.
We talk
See,
about topper stories, right? You telling the story, then they try to top the story that you telling. Y'all ever heard of topper stories?
but see, you see, but I think that's so powerful. And it's so on point that he came right then. And when he said the part about you can be in a new season, but you haven't shifted yet. Our minds can, the battle of enoughness happens in our mind.
Yes.
And that's why I want us to understand that several things can be true at the same time.
Yes.
And if you can accept if you can just take that nugget away, several things can be true at the same time. The battle of enoughness happens in your mind.
Mhm.
Now, watch this. This is the last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to be quiet. But see, listen, this is going to set some folks free. Just because you think a thought, it doesn't mean that the thought is true.
Yes.
Just because you think a thought, it doesn't mean the thought is true. And if you can understand that, when you hear the whispers, researchers have said that 90% of our internal dialogue is negative.
Mm,
Researchers have said that 90% of our internal dialogue, what is your internal dialogue? What you are saying to you about you. A lot of times, what you are saying to you about you is what you have heard from other people or what has been planted over the course of your life, not just what was planted yesterday. I'm talking about what was planted when you were 5, what was planted when you were 12. Some of those jokes that people would say, that's why I tell you to be careful about LOL friends. Some of those thoughts that you're thinking were planted a long time ago. And so when you can understand that 90% of my internal dialogue, if I'm not working on it consistently, can be negative, then just because the thoughts, see, some people are believing what you're thinking.
mm,
Some of you are believing what you were thinking. And that is why it's important that, Tara, I don't only work with faith based people. I work with plenty of people who are not faith based. But what I tell them is you have to figure out what your truth is. What is the higher truth, the truth that is higher than you? Well, for faith based people, people who trust the word, the truth that is higher than us is the word of God. So those thoughts that you are thinking, you have to take the thought captive. But so many of us are living on autopilot or we're over running our lives. So we're either living on autopilot or we're maxed out. So you're not learning to pause
mm,
and pay attention to what you are thinking. So what I find with many of the women that I work with, Tara, is that we get into a battle of them defending their dysfunction.
mm.
We get into a battle of them to, because they call it, this is just who I am. This is just what I've always done. This is all I know. And I'm telling them to consider if what you've always done, what you've always known, I'm asking you to consider if that is creating the life you want. If it
Yes.
is not, you may need to revisit what you are thinking. So the battle of your enoughness is rooted in your mind. So when Charles comes in and says, listen, Robin, you were in a new season, but your mind hadn't shifted to that new season. I could have sabotaged the season that I was in because I was stuck in a previous mindset. I still saw us as the 20-year-olds who were just running back and forth to college. No, my husband is now meeting with the president of these United States of America, and I'm mad about who's getting him off the bus, who's getting my children off the bus. I'm going to be quiet, but listen, why? Remember, I say go a layer deeper, go a layer deeper. Why was I frustrated about that? Y'all didn't have anything to do with the bus. I was connecting all of this to loss. I'm being left to handle everything on my own. It wasn't about the bus. I'm not that slow. It was because it felt like I was being left to handle everything by myself, that all of it was on me. My core value is partnership. So it felt like, here I am by myself. I don't have any family here. And that was a real issue, but I hadn't shifted to see the solve. I was living in sabotage.
Woo, Sabotage. Okay, so I grew up in Jackson, Tennessee, and our primary radio station played a lot of blues type music, right? And there was this old school song that said, your body's here with me, but your mind is on the other side of town. And that is what the season disconnect looks like. Like your body is in this season, but your mind is completely in a whole nother reality. And so getting those two things to align to be in the same space is powerful. You said so many notable quotables. I'm seeing you all in the chat, in the comments, amening, seeing that this is truth and defending your dysfunction. Woo, that's a whole session that I'm going to make sure you do. And I'm going to tune in and tell everybody to tune in to your session on that. Okay, so
Yes.
listen, in closing, we've talked about your route, how you ended up in the journey and in the space that you're working in now. And we talked about your reluctance, those moments where you were questioning your enoughness before you were full into your yes. Now I want to talk about real life in closing, what is real life? Life, life. What does life mean in your work and in your mission that you're doing?
So remember, I have my counseling practice, which is Virtue Speaks, and counseling is often focused on helping you overcome trauma and challenges of your past that are still plaguing you in your present, right? That's a lot of what counseling is about. That's not only what it's about. There are definitely real realities right now that cause people distress, but counseling is focused on helping you navigate the tough season of your life, um, and living a life that you want. Coaching for me, my coaching practice is really helping people gain clarity, build community, and understand their purpose. So I work a lot with helping people gain clarity about their purpose, the courage to walk it out, and the community to support them. So that's a lot of our focus, right? And so what does that mean for me? That I feel called, and I know that I'm called to help people live life. What does life stand for? Living intentionally, fully engaged. To live intentionally, fully engaged. Okay, Robin, but what does that mean? Well, I have found that many, many people, and again, my coaching practice is leaning toward women, many women are living very passive lives, not intentional lives. They're not living a life that they are crafting and identifying. They are kind of living just whatever comes up, whatever happens. They are just living very passively. And so I'm helping them to understand, no, listen to me. When you don't honor, this is what I'm telling them, session one, when you don't honor your deepest values, you will always live with an undercurrent of life dissatisfaction. I'm telling you that. You don't even have to be one of my clients. I'm telling y'all who are listening, listen to me. When you don't honor, I don't care if you are my best friend, Oprah. She's my best friend, Sorry Gail. I don't care if you're Beyonce. I don't care if you're Kelly, who I think is so dope, Michelle. I don't care any of whoever your person is. If you do not honor your deepest values, you will always live with an undercurrent of life dissatisfaction. Why am I saying undercurrent? It may not be at the top of your mind, but it's that undercurrent that's right beneath the surface and you just can't put your finger on it. What's going on? I'm just not satisfied. Something just seems to be missing. I can't put my finger on it. That's because you're not honoring your values. Well, some of you are being triggered right there. And I could go on about how triggers ain't about other people, it's about you. But some of y'all are being triggered, and I want you to understand if you're feeling some kind of way when I'm saying that, it's probably because you don't know your values. When you don't know your values. So if you don't even know what they are, you can't honor them. So that's what living intentionally means. Identifying what your core values are and your character values and living with intention, then fully engaged. I am passionate about helping every woman I come into contact with to stop just dipping their toe in the water. I want you to dive all the way into your life, all the way into all aspects of what God has called you to be. Listen, I'm the woman who, when I go to the hotel and they say that there's a free breakfast, I don't care if I'm not hungry, baby. I'm going to get me some bacon or I'm going to get me a banana because the truth is I've already paid for it. So if it's a benefit for me, I want it. I want you to fully engage in all aspects of your life, all that God has for you. I don't want you to leave anything on the table. So many women or allowing their understudy to get top billing in their life. That lower down version of you, that watered down version of you, and the real you is peeking around the corner, pulling the corner back, watching that watered down version of you live your life. And I'm telling you, it is time for you to come to the center of the stage and live the life God has called you to live. And in order to do that, you have to live with intention and you have to fully engage.
Whew, okay, that was so power packed. And I know so many people who are watching, they want more of that. Like, I'm, I could ask the next question and the next question about every single thing you said. Okay, so tell us about your course that can help us dive into that type of life, living
Yeah. And so
intentionally, fully engaged.
Yes. And so, T, I am so passionate about the life course because I really know that when women slow their lives down longer than I sis, listen, I know we are so T, I'm sitting here minding my business and I'm getting a text from my children now asking who's gonna make the cornbread, okay? For the chili that I made. Do you do you hear me? So I understand we're all getting pulled from so many directions, but I want you to hear this. Nobody is going to give you permission to prioritize you but you. No one. And so I created the life course for that very reason. Y'all see my passion about it because I know it's an independent course, which means you can do it on your own time, girl. You can take a year to do it, you can take 2 years. And I have created this course that allows you to walk through the journey, what I call the 7 steps to life. What are the 7 steps to life? There are the 7 steps that you want to take in order to talk about what I just said, living intentionally, fully engaged. And at the end of the 7 steps to life, you will have what I call the life guide. And you can keep coming back to it, keep coming back to it. It helps you identify what your values are. It helps you to categorize your life. It helps you to put a strategy together for each area of your life. Because what happens, and I'm done, T, but what happens when you get crystal clear on your values and what you are supposed to be doing, your purpose and destiny serve as blinders for you. When a horse is in a race, the jockey puts blinders on the horse so that the horse isn't distracted by everything that's going on in the other lanes. And so when you get crystal clear about your purpose, it serves as blinders to you. And so then you're not distracted by all the bells and whistles of life. You can get very focused. And that's what the life course helps you to do. It helps you to get crystal clear on your purpose and on your life strategy so that you can live intentionally fully engaged.
I'm taking notes. This is so good. Okay, did y'all hear this? No one is going to give you permission to prioritize you.
They're
I'm
not.
challenged.
They're
Somebody
not.
in the chat just say ouch. That's
They're not.
that's it. That is it. Robin is just giving us a permission slip.
Girl. Yes. And T, let me say this. I'll be quiet, girl, because we could talk about this all day. But the reason why many of us are doing what we've seen, we're only doing what we've seen. We're doing what mama them did. And listen, mama them sitting on my couch. And what they are saying is that they wish they would have done something different. But because you don't want to dishonor mama them by showing up differently, then you are doing what they wouldn't want you to continue to do anyway if they had the vocabulary to say it to you. No one's, and listen, it's not easy. Trying to balance this is my children are my priority. I want to be available for them. My husband is my priority. So figuring it out, I'm not telling you it is easy. I'm telling you it is necessary if you want to live a life that's free of bitterness, regret, frustration, that thing that's bubbling beneath the surface. If you want to live your life fully engaged, you got to prioritize you, sis. You got to, and prioritizing you is just oxygen therapy. You're putting the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on anybody else. Because if you are passed out, what can you do for all of them? I'm not talking 24 hours. I'm saying, can you prioritize yourself? I start my coaching clients out, I start them out by saying, I just want you to find 30 minutes in one week, just 30 minutes in one week. Out of 7 days, can you find 30 minutes just for you, where you are prioritizing you? I'm done.
Listen, this hour has been so powerful. Wherever you are watching this, however many times you watch this, because listen, there's so many notable, quotable, so much power in this. You need to watch this again. I'm going to leave the replay up on all of our platforms. But I know that you are leaving this moment, whoever's listening and watching, wanting more of life coach, life strategist, executive coach, licensed mental health therapist, author, Robin May. So please tell everybody how they can follow you on all your social media platforms and how we can get our lives, get this life course, get this life class, y'all.
Yes. Let me help you get your life. So, I spend most of my time on social media, the social media app, Instagram. That's probably where you're going to find me the most. I love for you to DM me on Instagram. I love chatting with folks in my DM, so you can go there. All of my social media is Robin May Online. I do have a podcast. It's called Intentional Conversations with Robin May and Friends, where we really do go deep into a lot of these conversations. Right now, we are talking about what it means for you to do your work, honey. And I share very transparently what that means. So, again, if you go to all social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, it's Robin May Online. You're on mute, boo.
That's the enemy. Doesn't that happen?
This is the
Thank you so much for being a part of our You Are Enough conversation series. You have been such a pourer into my life. Y'all, in your life, you got some who are poor and some who are drained. So I am grateful for you personally for being someone who pours. And when you talk about the importance of who's in your circle, who's in your ear, y'all, you got to have somebody who sees you not only for all that you are, but beyond where you are, and who wants
Yes,
the best for you. Me and my son, we have a couple more years where we can ride together before he's driving. Well, he'll be 15 Christmas. And I'm trying to max out the few moments that we have in the car. And every time we get in the car on the way to school and pray, I always say, surround him with people who want the best for him, right?
absolutely.
And that's for every age, that's for every stage. We need to be surrounded. And so I thank you for being a voice in my life, someone who surrounds me and sees me beyond what's even happening now. Thank you for this
I love
hour.
you. I love you. Thank you all for hanging with us.
Yes, and remember, you are enough.
Enough.
See you next
Bye.
time.